everyone, welcome to the podcast. And this is co-host Tushar with Eugene. On this podcast, we will be discussing the approach to take towards various things in running as a sport, and we will also be discussing a couple of things that goes into actual coaching that we use to train an athlete. So that's about a quick podcast introduction, and I'll quickly give you my introduction, who am I and what I exactly do. So, being an athlete myself, I have been educating myself, researching and coaching in the endurance space, specifically into triathlons and running, and also some part of the fitness from past 5 to 6 years. And I have worked with athletes all around the globe. I specialize in the movement of the sport, and I have always believed that coaching is much, much more to do with just a training plan and the socialization aspect of it. So that's about my introduction, and I'll quickly hand it over to you, Eugene, to give you a quick introduction about yourself.
Thanks, Tusha. Hi, everyone. So my name is Eugene Lee from Singapore. And just to bring forward to the table, I come forward with close to more than 2 decades of experience coaching development athletes as well as performance athletes, both in triathlon as well as in endurance sport. Midway through my career, I've also ventured into the fitness industry, whereby primarily I'm now doing a lot of education and I focus a lot on the applied sense, whereby regardless of whether you're an athlete, educator, or someone who has an interest in endurance sport or movement, that's where I come in. So it's really exciting to see all of you here, and let's get started with the podcast.
Okay, so Eugene, I just wanted to ask about the next question that how do you ensure that running stays enjoyable? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a very good question. I think there's a couple of number of components when we're talking about ensuring that running stays enjoyable. First and foremost, I think what helps to keep someone really motivated and enjoying running itself is really looking at goals. So now, many a times we talk about setting goals, but sometimes these goals might not be properly crafted, or maybe we don't really give enough thought into planning for the goals itself. So I'm sure many of you out there have heard of setting goals. One of the simplest ways to set goals would be to use the acronym of SMART. And for those of you who haven't heard what SMART goals are, it just simply means that S means specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. Okay, and these will help you to really identify where you want to head to. Now, goals should also be taken in consideration. It can be measurable, whereby we measure by a number. It can also be outcome driven. That means it's not necessarily only about volume or time. It can just be something that impacts your life entirely. So these are things that you want to actually look at, especially when you're setting goals. I think this is a very interesting topic. We can probably do a standalone podcast on goals. But might I just add that it's really important for us to nail down why you want to run, or if there's something deep inside that you want to achieve, and running is going to help you achieve that. So when we don't have clear goals, what I find is we start following the friend next to you or a social group, and that's how I think after time sometimes people find it a bit monotonous, or they lose interest or motivation. And because originally they had no real goals but just was more of a social thing, running can actually then become less enjoyable. So you might just want to think about that when we are talking about keeping it good for long term. Now, having said that as well, I mentioned just now about being social. I think, don't get me wrong, it's very important that as human beings, we all need this social space. So COVID was a great example. The world shut down for 2.5 years, and I think people were just craving to run with friends or hang out with friends or even take part in a running event. So that's a social element. So yes, being social as well, one of your goals of being social can also be part of an outcome in your goals. So it helps to, again, motivate you and keep it enjoyable. And I believe a lot of recreational runners out there, and any of you on this podcast, you might already be running with a couple of friends or a group, and you will find there's a lot of not just running, but there's friendship, there's a good food sessions after that, everyone's enjoying yourself, and so that's one very important element to consider. Now, on the opposite end, I also think sometimes we run, and some of you out there, if you you can feel this, we run because we don't want to be social. So I am an example. When I get out on the road, I actually don't want to meet people I know. I just want to find my own running trail, head out, put some good music on, and just be in my own bubble. So I find a lot of enjoyment doing that. There is no distractions. I've got my favorite music on. I'm able to do a brain dump, meaning that I actually think of a lot of creative and innovative things while I'm running on my own. And once I'm done my run, I get back to reality and I actually feel much better. So some of you out there may actually be doing that as well, and that's perfectly fine. And in this case, yeah, that's an outcome for me because I need my own space, and running gives me that. So that's one example. All right. Some other things to consider as well would be, and this is very common, is while running, is to actually stay injury free. And this is definitely one of the topics Tusha, I think we'll be speaking on this later on. However, but when we're talking about being running or running injury free, takes into consideration many factors. So I know out there, people talk about the type of shoes, they talk about the amount of volume and intensity, they talk about running technique. I personally think that it's a combination of a myriad of these factors all integrated together, and it's important to address them, whether on your own accord or work with a professional. So this could be a coach, it could be a biomechanist, it could be a therapist, and it's very, very important to stay injury free. Now, the interesting fact about running is that although it is such a simple activity which can be done by the majority of population, it has also one of the highest injury rates, and that's really interesting. Why do we get injured when running seems so natural? So food for thought. Yeah, and having said that as well, I think one of the other points, apart from injury, is also to understand that in order to fuel your new hobby or recreation activity of running, we need to take in consideration about nutrition as a whole. Again, this is not well addressed, especially in Asia, where yes, we talk a lot about carbohydrates, protein, and fat, but there are very few resources out there that really addresses how to balance nutrition with your normal lifestyle, and now in this instance with your newfound activity, running. Some of us actually find that I'm actually going to run because I want to lose weight, and on top of that I'm going to try to implement a new diet. This could be any of the popular fat diets out there, and we assume that by combining your new activity with nutrition or one of these diets, there is a particular outcome you're looking at. But more often than not, it usually runs into issues, and there is not just a physical impact to your running, there's also actually an emotional and psychological impact to running. And so when you aren't able to balance your activity, in fact regardless any activity, with a good nutrition plan, I think this is where it can be quite detrimental as well. So more often than not, I don't think a lot of people talk about that, but that's an important point I think you might want to consider as well. Good nutrition should be a part of your knowledge before you embark into running, regardless of the distance. So, what do you think, Tusha? Do you think that's good enough to give these following reasons as to be able to enjoy your running?
Yeah, I agree with the most of the points that are discussed by Eugene here. And yeah, so basically, yeah, the goal setting that goes, we just talked about. Okay, so smart goal setting method is one of a kind of method which is majorly being used in the endurance community for setting up different goals. Okay, that's altogether maybe a different topic. We will not go over much into that, but yeah, the goals should be set it right, and basically it should not be like your goals are very unrealistic so that you are just focusing or emphasizing much on your running, and that is actually over bombarding your lifestyle because of that, which actually make your running not enjoyable. So just ensure that you are setting some realistic goal. And what important point I have to make here is we also have discussed in one of the previous questions about the intent for running. So intent for running is the thing that will help you in setting the right goals here. So that's one point. Another point was kind of a socialization and solace, which actually goes somewhat in a combination. Like, yeah, there are some people who just like to run inside the group. They need some people around it. After that, they need some fun and all. That's completely okay. That's not we do not say that it's bad, and it is much needed. But then, as Eugene said, I am on the same lines. I do not even carry my mobile while running, and I do not even go or much. I do not usually connect with the people when I go into the run because I am not able to connect with myself. What I tend to do is like I just like to focus on my rhythm, my breathing, and there are different movement patterns that we are going to be following in the running. So I like to focus on them rather than on and maybe enjoy myself. Sometimes I have a bad habit, like I just sing a song or talk to myself. Like these are some weirdish habits, but yeah, they make the things enjoyable. You may go to some scenic places to run, so that might add you an good extra enjoyable thing. And yeah, so it's just like it depends upon your priorities that what whether you need a socialization or whether you need a solace. But what we will tell you is that keep running enjoyable, but also focus on what are the things that are you needed to be focused during the run. So it should not like you are just chatting with a friend and those are some of the things that you need to observe during your run. You are just ignoring them. Just do not do that because that is going to be making a lot of impacts on your body, and your technique might suffer out of that, and then you get injured out of that. Next point was going to be, I think, staying injury free. And I think, yeah, the staying injury free is the most crucial part here because if you want to enjoy your activity, you should be injury free. Because if you are injured, what happens usually is let's say you develop an IT band syndrome. You just do not realize it, and you tend to run. At some point of time, you're going to break down, and then you need to sit at home for some couple of days, or maybe I'm not sure if it is severe, then more than that as well. So it depends. Like just make it and listen to your body. Make it injury free. Focus on your technique and make it enjoyable. Because if you are injury free, you are gonna enjoy that activity much more than just bombarding your body with just volumetric training or maybe unnecessarily intensifying your training, right? So that was the one point. And another point we discussed also is the nutrition. So another crucial point which I will say is also very much important in order to remain the injury free as well, because nutrition provides various nutrients which are actually being used up during your running, and you just fill them up. So it's like you are drinking a glass of water, you are just emptying that glass and then you are just filling it up. Okay, so this filling it up is nothing but your nutrition that comes during the entire day, or maybe it's like post run, whatever it is. So just give it a time. Like what I'll say is, one of the points I remember that I especially feel, um, let's say you are running and you are socializing in your group and going there. So just try to carry somewhat carryable food, maybe that you can, like maybe a protein shake or maybe a bar or something, which can give you a good amount of nutrients after your immediate activity within 30 to 45 minutes, and that can replace it with 4 to 1 or maybe 3 to 1, whatever it is, depending upon your requirement. So that can also make you on the nutrition front, covered on the nutrition front as well, and you are also going to be socializing and enjoying with your friends after that. So you're taking care of both, right? So there are different things like that. And yeah, I think that is how you make your running enjoyable.
Okay, so Tusha, just one good question for everyone, our listeners out there. What do you think, in your personal opinion, is the best way to begin a running routine? And I think with the majority of our listeners based from India, yeah, how does that go about, in your opinion? Tell us.
Ah, yeah, that's a good question actually. Okay, so to start with running routine, there are different options that you can take. Maybe initially, whenever someone is coming to running, they maybe find a good friend of theirs, their community, or maybe a family who lives nearby area, and they can go together with them. Or even if they do not have, okay, there are some areas which do not have access to good roads, or basically a good surfaces, what I will say. So there comes, like most of the Indian cities are getting concrete roads nowadays, and it is not advisable daily or maybe even regularly running on these concrete kind of surfaces. You just have to mix and match those surfaces. So what I'll say is, even if you feel that you are not having a good kind of a roads or infrastructure, and maybe that you can even go with the treadmill running, that's another option. It's not like that some people think that treadmill running is not kind of a natural thing, or it just changes the things lots. But then see, whenever you train on a treadmill, the things changes differently, I know, but then you have to tweak your training a bit, maybe whenever you are training on a treadmill, and that is where actually coaches can help you out, or maybe even some experts that you are taking help can help you out. But yeah, these two are the first option whenever someone is coming very fresh. And then you also have to consider doing a progression of a run walk, and do not look at others and just directly start running, because what will happen is, if you start running even for a 5 minute continuously, you will just feel like you are getting exhausted too early, and that will actually demotivate you. So rather than, what I'll suggest is, you take a good amount of, maybe you just start, if you're not confident, start with a brisk walking, and then slowly go towards running, and then make a run walk run kind of a interval kind of a progression, and then slowly build that progression towards your entire, maybe 5 minutes of continuous run, 10 minutes of continuous run, that kind of a thing. So that will help you a lot. And then in between, walk and run, you also can include a jog. So jog, okay, now let me comment here. Most of the people think that jog is also a run. So that is not actually. Jog is a very much different thing, and run is a very much different thing. Because in the jogging, your movement differs a lot, and jogging can easily be done in and around different small circular parks which you can see. But then in the running, there is kind of a fast running which you cannot really do in small parks which are regularly you are going in a small kind of a circular motion that you are doing sprinting, you're doing intervals. That is not being handled into the jogging. So it's kind of a different thing, I'll say. Another thing is as we have discussed, once you just start progressing from run walk, just start like a continuous run, and once you get a hang of at a continuous run, let's say you are running 5 minutes of continuous now, you can build a run walk progression around that 5 minutes, because you can now run 5 minutes continuously. Now, going next, you can try to run maybe for 6 to 7 minutes continuously and build your continuous running likewise. Like maybe you can build it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20, and then 30. So keep it a 30 minutes of goal initially, that you have to reach to 30 minutes, and it is okay. Like some people get a plan of reaching 30 minutes within 8 weeks, but sometimes it is not possible ideally. What I would say, rather than going for such plans, rather than just focus on your technique, learn to move right, basically. Because what that will happen is, let's compare. If you are training, if you're not training for any sport, or if you are coming freshly to running, okay, then whenever you are coming to run and you do not know the movement that is happening inside the running, okay, and then you keep on running, okay, now that teaches a wrong movement pattern, and your brain learns that. Okay, once your brain learns that, you will keep on repeating that same movement pattern over and over the years and over the months, and that is going to be very disastrous for your body to get injured very easily, because most of those heel strike and everything that comes, and most of the injuries are because people do not know how to move during the running. So what I'll say is, just try to do as much as movement patterning, or kind of what I'll say, to simplify in the layman's terms, it's just kind of a running drills that you have to do with the help of any qualified coach, or maybe a biomechanist, or a relevant person. So basically what these will do is that will teach your body kind of a right movement pattern that you have to follow inside the running, and then you just slowly build all those run walk progressions and all the different things. And then it's not like you just have to do the drills entirely all the time for initial couple of weeks, but what I'll say is, just start with initial week or 2 weeks, maybe, to learn those movements, and then slowly start with your run walk progression. So that will help you a lot, because then you are going to incorporate the right movement as well, and you are going to incorporate that progression as well there. So I think that is what I will say, how one can begin a running routine in and around India. What I'll say, whatever the gaps I have seen. And yeah, one of the most important point I have to emphasize here in terms of Indian community, because Indian roads are not that safe as compared to uh, the roads outside India, like in any other countries, because I think Yujin is in Singapore, so there are different parks there to run and cycle, and I think there are different European countries as well who have that accessibility. But in India, we do not have that. We have to run sometimes during the traffic roads, or maybe even if you go during early hours. Uh, it's like traffic is less, but you never know when there are vehicles and you are not sure about it. So what I'll say is most people when start running just start listening to music, because according to me that is not correct way to do. But it is very subjective, as I told that it is not suitable for Indian roads, because you might not hear about if someone is coming from behind and you don't know he is giving you a horn and you're not sure, then accidents might happen, right? So that is the reason why I emphasize on this point, especially to the beginners who do not know about this thing. So yeah, I think these are the points which I'll say to begin a running routine. So what do you think, Eugene? Do you agree with this, and do you have any other new points to add in?
Tushar, thanks for that. I think that's really interesting. I think one of my biggest takeaways from what you mentioned is a little bit on the safety and cultural differences we have from where you are and where I am. That aside, I think your points just made me think a little bit about run walk. This is again my opinion. I feel walking tends to be underrated. It is a very good way for any of you, regardless of whether you are a seasoned runner or total beginner, to include walking as part of your programming. So I have worked with much higher level runners as well, and we do incorporate a bit of walking as well into our routine, especially for some of the days that require a bit of recovery, and also getting a bit of aerobic work in. So I know it's a little unique, but my opinion is don't underestimate walking itself. One of the things also we found that with walking and how it complements running, and this is for those of you who are a little more serious in running, is that you tend to build more strength in your shin muscles, so making it more robust. And stronger shin muscles actually help you prevent a very common running injury known as shin splints. So that's something I think I hope you guys might want to just pick it up a bit. I think your other point on running correctly. So this is one of our biggest topics, and this is what we're going to be doing one of these days. And this is going to be one of our future events. Tusha, we're going to be running in India, which is about running correctly. So again, there are many schools of thoughts of how do you even run right. Now, there are fundamental movement patterns as human beings we should all observe. And when we talk about running right, it's again not just working with any coach or any sports scientist, because everyone is different. And when I talk about this being different, it's not just your anthropometry measurements. So we all have different limb length or heights or whatsoever. It's also additional environment factors that will impact the way you run and the way you learn how to run right. So a lot of reasons that come into play, and I'm just going to leave you guys hanging a little bit. For those of you especially who come from a corporate background and spend the majority of your time in front of a desk, that helps set you up for disastrous posture, and it's definitely one of the biggest causes of dysfunctional movement patterns and running, and eventually leading into injuries. So yeah, it's again, as we both agree, it's very important to learn how to run right, but there are actually many other facets to consider when we're talking about running right. That's it. That's pretty good input, Tusha. I think I've learned a bit of a cultural difference, both in the terms of environment and safety. Yeah, and that's a good one.
Okay, so To conclude, what we discussed is about reasons for why people run, and we also spoke about how to get started, what are the things that are needed to start it, and we also discussed different ways in what are the best ways to just start your running routine whenever you are maybe even sometimes beginner runner, or even if you are experienced runner, you can tweak that routine somewhat like that. So these are the points that we discussed, and we are concluding our first podcast here at these 4 points. And if you just like this podcast, just share it with your friends so that it can reach more people to emphasize on and understand and learn from most of the points that we have discussed here. And also leave a comment if you have any questions on any points that we have discussed, so that we would be happy to answer your questions, whatever you have. In our next podcast, we will be discussing about goal setting and managing expectations in your newfound running activity. So just stay tuned. We will be soon back. And lastly, I am just launching my fresh new running technique program, which is Ultimate Running Technique program, which I have been conducting for a while. But now I am relaunching the batches for it. I will be conducting online face-to-face group, and as well personal face-to-face sessions, those who are required. You can just go over to my website sculptingyoustrong.com, and you will find details under the services, or you can just leave a comment on here and I can get back to you on that. So with that, we are concluding our podcast, and thank you and see you soon.